Hey guys, it's me, Liv. Welcome, and I hope you guys enjoyed the new April box that came out from Not2Shabby. Look at all these great sets. Today I'm going to be working with the set called Time to Relax, and I'm only going to be pulling out the flowers from the set because I'm going to be creating my own background. So I start off with just cutting a piece of paper that is going to be a little bit longer than my card. It's going to be 6 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and pull my Misty out and begin some stamping. Now, the biggest part here is just figuring out how exactly you want to lay out your flowers when you're doing this. But once you got that, you're just going to continue the pattern throughout your paper and try to fill in as much spaces as you can. So I am using some Ultra New inks here, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this all across the background here. One of the tricks that I like to do is to make sure that my flowers do sometimes cut off and hang over the sides. It gives it a more realistic look, like it came from a larger piece of paper when you do it like that. I do often rotate too if I find that I don't have enough space to use in my Misty. Now, if you haven't found out, Not2Shabby is going to be releasing a monthly kit each month that has papers, ephemera, as well as a load of stamps. These are all originally created stamps specifically for the Not2Shabby shop, so you're not really going to find them anywhere else, and I think you guys are going to love all the fantastic sets that have come out. Now I'm moving on to using some of the leaves here in the card. So as you see, I'm just doing random assorted placement here just to fill in some various places within the background. Once that is all set, I'm actually going to move on to create my own background for the larger piece of paper. So I'm taking out my distress inks. I'm using peacock feathers to start with. Then I'm going to move on to using another one of the blues. I believe this is a Salty Ocean. So as you see, the next step I'm going to do is spray up that ink and just splat it around. Now, when you're using a piece of plastic, that helps you control it a little bit more than if you were to put it on and try to spray it on yourself and spread it like with spray. I am just trying to control it a little bit. For this background piece, this is actually watercolor paper. This is not regular paper. And I'm going to dry it off just a tad bit. I noticed that it was a little bit too light blue, so I'm going to go back in with a darker blue and again add selective splatters to create this watercolor background. Now that I'm pretty much happy with my background, it's just time to dry it off just a little bit more and then move on to the final assembly. One of the great things of using this type of method is you can always build up more. You can also use different colors. Distress inks will sometimes blend together versus oxides will be able to separate apart as long as you've dried in between each color. But I just like the control of this. Now, I purposely, as I mentioned earlier, made this piece a little bit larger because it allows me, if I've made any errors, to trim it off a bit so that I'm using an A2 size card base. I'm just going to trim off this center piece so that it's now at 5.5 size. Then I'm going to center it into the middle of my card. Now, as I was doing this, I realized that I still felt like I had too much white spots. Me and white, we have this kind of love-hate relationship. So I felt like I needed to fill it in just a little bit more. So I am taking out my Nouveau drops. I'm going to go ahead and kind of create not really a pattern, but just put them throughout to kind of break up that as well and fill in some of that white space. What I have found with Nouveau drops is, you don't really need to do too much with them. They usually kind of self-flatten themselves when you're using them. So don't feel like you'd have to tap the paper in order to get them because they will eventually self-flatten. Now, in hindsight of making this card, I really should have glued down that centerpiece before I put my Nouveau drops because they do take a little bit of time to settle, but that's okay. I just carefully used my art glitter glue and put it on the back and then took out a brush to kind of push down the center so that it could stick better. So now it's time for a sentiment. So I'm pulling out a sentiment from this same Time to Relax stamp set, and I'm going to go ahead and figure out exactly where I want it to go. I'm going to create a small little banner piece out of it so that it can sit there and go in between the card. One of the things I decided to do was to keep with the color scheme is do the sentiment in a dark blue, so it matches well. I thought a black would be just a little bit too overbearing when there's just so much lighter blue in there. Now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and trim out a piece. I did use my die cut that I have in my stash. I believe I used my LDRS sentiment strip die cut, and then I stamped it onto that, and then I put some foam tape and I pop it up in the center. So be sure to check out this channel to continue to see all of the fantastic designers and what they are making with this April box. If this is something that you have enjoyed, I welcome you guys to go ahead over to the Not2Shabby shop and check it out. The May one is also just as adorable. So I hope to see everyone soon. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.